What's up, guys? Sub-Zero here. For a rundown of patch 12.1, there is a ton of stuff they changed in this patch because we just had a super long 4-week patch. So yeah, I'm just gonna run through the entire thing, say what I think the meta is gonna be like. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff, so let's just get into it. This is kind of like a general, like big picture, a lot of the big stuff that they changed. So look at that for a sec if you haven't looked at this yet. Um, and there's even some stuff that wasn't in Mort's patch rundown, like lifelong learning. So yeah, let's get through the large changes. So yeah, they basically just like balance some of the heart and crests to be a little bit more reasonable. So things like Arcanist Heart granting a Swain now. Things like Scholar Heart granting a Zyra instead of Lysandra. I feel like prior to this, and like Scrap Heart granting an Echo instead of, or a Blitz instead of an Echo. I feel like you used to be able to just grab Scrap Heart or Scholar Heart and stabilize with a free 3 cost. Now you can't do that. So pretty much everything has just become a little bit more reasonable. Protector Heart granting nothing is kind of suspect because they're also nerfing the Protector Heart in other ways. And it was also, I think, falling out of favor a little bit on its own. So there's a chance that Protector reroll is just kind of trash next patch. We'll see. It could always be good. Maybe something else that is unforeseen pulls it into the meta, but it is a little bit suspect this is granting nothing now, so this is even weaker, even though it is very strong in the actual comp. So yeah, I don't really want to go through every single one, but I guess I will. Pretty much everything that used to grant a 3 cost now grants a 2 cost is a little bit more reasonable now. So like these I think used to be potentially like slam takes to win streak. Now they're just like reasonable. They're okay. Things like Chemtech Crest granting a Warwick instead of a Zac, Used to be like, okay, a free Zac, we are chilling. Now Warwick, it's pretty good. Mutant Crest not granting anything is pretty reasonable, I think, just because I think Mutant Crest is really strong. Um, so yeah, that's it for those. I think pretty reasonable. Brings them all to about the same power level, where there were some standouts prior to that. Arden's Sensor, bonus attack speed 40 to 50%, I think is actually pretty big. I already thought this augment was pretty good. I mean, it's hard to take it like as your first augment because it's very unlikely that you have an enchanter. But as like a later augment, I think it's great. And you could always just take it early in YOLO and say, okay, I'm just gonna play like Jin plus enchanters this game and I'll take it. But I think as a later augment, once you have some enchanters, it's quite solid, and now it's even better. So I would definitely look at taking this. Ascension, the damage amp going from 65% down to 50%. That's after being reduced in this current patch we're in, so it gets even weaker. I feel like it can't be that strong now. 50% is really good, but the fact that like depending on your comp, you might not even be triggering this thing. I think it's just probably not worth taking in the majority of situations in my head. Cybernetics bonus going from 200, the bonus health going 200, 300, 400 to 150, 250, 350. I did think this was a pretty solid augment. I started coming around to it more recently. So nerfing the HP by a bit, I don't think like makes it not viable, but definitely makes it a little bit weaker. So kind of just a little bit weaker in your head if you want to change your thought process on that. Duet bonus health 500 to 400. I think Duet was pretty solid, and I think it's still going to be solid at 400 HP. So just a little weaker. Lifelong Learning reworked. So now it grants scholars 2 AP after each combat, and then an additional 2 HP if they survive combat. I think this is pretty lit. I think this is one of the cooler augments. I always thought it was really interesting to just have like scaling over the game scholars AP. But problematically, they had to survive every combat to do that. Now they get 2 AP no matter what, and you still get that survival bonus you had an extra 2. So I think this is pretty great, especially if you're going like a Heimerdinger comp, which I think is a lot better based on some of the other changes they have in this patch. Like you'll definitely want to be taking this, but only if you're in Scholars. And I still think taking it first is kind of a bait, just because it's very hard to guarantee that you have Scholars really early on into the game. So I think as first augment, a little bit of a bait. As third augment, or as second augment, really good. And then as last augment, it doesn't really make sense. Maybe there's some way you could take this first. Like if you get a Heimerdinger out of a box, I'm slam taking this every time. Makeshift Armor getting buffed, so it's an extra 5 armor and MR at level 1, extra 10 at level 2, extra 15 at level 3. I think that's great. I think it's like a pretty boring augment that I was never that interested in taking. And like you can even take advantage of the synergy with it, if you have like target dummies or if you have innovators, anything that like spawns a unit. But I was never really excited to be taking this. I think it's actually a lot more solid now. So I'll be happy to pick this up even more. I was already taking it, but I'll be happy to take it even more. From the Portable Forge Armory, Death's Defiance now grants 20% Omnivamp. I mean, how often are you really going to see this? But it is a nice buff for Death's Defiance. But you're very rarely going to see this, but I think it is a good buff. Spellblade empowered attack ability power scaling 200 to 225%. I think this is really solid. This is an augment that I don't think most people have actually like looked at and tried very much. So I think in some ways it's kind of like a placebo buff. Get some more people to take it and actually try it out. You slam this on some kind of blue buff caster, and it's pretty sick. The issue is that a lot of the blue buff casters in this this patch kind of suck. You don't really want to be playing Lux. It's okay, but it's not great. Mouse kind of falls off in a late game unless you're 3-starring him, but there aren't even a lot of great like 3-star mutant comps unless you're playing like Kog'maw. What's nice is with the changes to Heimerdinger, which will be a little bit further down, that's another person who can use blue buff, which makes all the other ones better, right? Because you can slam blue buff now, and then you can play Heimerdinger, Mazda Heart, or Lux, even throw it on some units late game that don't super benefit from it. So I think this is great with those types of units who are going to be casting a lot multiple times. So yeah, I think this is definitely worth taking in a lot of situations if you're slamming a blue buff pretty much, or you have some units with low mana costs. Stand United nerf, the handshake, everybody was just slam picking this every time, and it's actually the same at the prismatic level. It's just nerfed by 1 at levels 1 and 2. I think totally reasonable. I think this was unbalanced, and everyone was just slam picking it every time. So I think totally reasonable for this to get nerfed. Sunfire Board, max HP burn 20% to 16% is a pretty big nerf. They nerfed Morellos as well this patch, so you're gonna be looking. It's like if people aren't slamming Morellos, it does actually make this better, right? Because you need some kind of HP burn. But still, it's a pretty big nerf. I don't actually know like how good this augment is after this nerf. My intuition is that it's not that strong after this nerf. So something to be said. And Woodland Charm, the cop's HP is now 1600 instead of 1500. I think this augment's kind of trash. It's good if you want to win streak early in a prismatic lobby, but it falls off so hard late game. Just having a 1600 HP copy of your strongest dude it has not been very good for me. I've used it to win streak early, but it really feels like it falls off late in prismatic lobbies when other people are getting stuff like, level up or, like 2 academy emblems. So I don't think this is enough to make it like really quite strong, but maybe it's okay. Okay, now changes to traits, the big changes to traits. So Chemtech's damage reduction percentage going from 25 to 20%. The max health regen is being buffed at 5 Chemtechs, 7 Chemtechs, and 9 Chemtechs. So going from 3, 4, 7, 12 to 3, 5, 8, 15. And the Chemtech attack speed is being also buffed at 7 Chemtechs and 9 Chemtechs. Maybe this makes 9 Chemtechs and 7 Chemtechs actually feel like a real chase trait. Right now, I feel like you're just never playing those because it's not strong enough to justify playing stuff like Twitch and Singed. So maybe you actually play these sometimes. I feel like right now it's just not playable. So it is a pretty hardy buff at these big levels. And it is a nerf, just a flat nerf for 3 Chemtechs. So that combined with a nerf for Urgot, a nerf for one of Urgot's core items, Static Shiv, which we'll see lower down, makes me wonder how strong Urgot's actually going to be after this patch. He's just a very solid unit with some really solid units around him. So he's probably not going to be unplayable. But he might be where like Yoni is in my head right now, where he's a playable forecast carry in specific scenarios, but he's not like the go-to one, which, is maybe healthy. Something to keep in mind though. Imperials, so the Tyrant's bonus damage is going from 75, 125 to 80, 150. So it's a pretty large buff. I still feel, like maybe 5 Imperials is actually playable now. Never. Like right now, I just feel like 5 Imperials is complete trash. And the units bonus damage going up 5% at 5 Imperials, which is kind of minor. I think the big thing here is a small buff for 3 Imperials for your unit, and then a big buff for 5 Imperials. So maybe 5 is actually playable. If you get that like Imperial Soul, where you get, or whichever one gives the 2 emblems, like maybe you're actually playing 5 Imperials at that point. It is a pretty hardy damage buff. And maybe there's some chance to actually play Samira reroll in this coming patch. There's also some buffs for Samira, some buffs for Swain, and some buffs for Talon. So that's a comp that I think is definitely going to come back. I don't know if it's going to be the best comp. Hopefully they don't overbuff it too much, but I think you're definitely going to see people playing Samira reroll again, just because they buffed all the units and the traits. But overall, I think maybe 5 is playable. The fact that it was completely unplayable makes me think it's probably not going to be like busted at 5, but maybe it's playable. And then a little bit buff for like a Samira reroll that only plays 3. Innovators. The Bear's base HP is going up by 100, and its armor and MR is going up by 10. I think this is great. I thought the Bear was absolute trash garbage. I have a very distinct memory of a game where I like high rolled 5 Innovators early. I did not have like a ton of 2-star units, but I just had 5 Innovators, and I was like, okay, I'm probably like stable. And I just like lost every fight. I was like, okay, lit. It's an 8th. So I think this is really good. The Bear just felt super awkward and not very strong, so this will help, especially in Innovators where there's not a ton of frontline, right? If you're just playing 5 Innovators, you're probably playing like Singed as your frontline and maybe throwing Tarek in for Socialite. But, getting more frontline out of the Bear I think is really big. So I think this is great. It's another buff to Innovators combined with the buff to Heimerdinger, and, the buff to something that Heimerdinger might use. Oh, I should go back and say real quick with the change to Spellblade. Really quick, this is for Arcanists, so using it on Heimer is a pretty niche example, but you can always Arcanist bat a Heimer. It is playable. It is something that is doable, but yeah, just something to note there because I was a little bit misleading. But yeah, Innovators I think will be stronger. Maybe you'll actually see more people play Innovators where now like they barely play at all. That'd be dope. Socialite 2 mana regen going from 5 to 3. This is huge. Obviously Socialites have been dominating recently. Just throw 3 Socialites in, or even 2. Put your Tahm Kench on there, put your Kaisa on there, put your Victor on there, and just destroy people. Tahm Kench and Kaisa, I would say, are the biggest defenders there. Even Akali as well. So I think this is totally fair. I think they'll still be playable, but it is a huge nerf. So you're not going to see every comp get capped out with 2 or 3 Socialites. So that's cool. Syndicate, bonus amplification 33% to 50%. It's a small buff for Syndicate at 7. I still don't know how good Syndicate 7 is. It probably still isn't that great of a chase trait. Might need to be buffed even more because, right now Syndicate 7 does not feel like anywhere close to an auto win. Like maybe it's a top 4. But, some of those other like Innovator 7, it feels like it's like, okay, I might just straight up win the game with this. Or some other, in the past, like chase traits. Like 8 Dawnbringers I'm thinking back to. Like, that was insane. 7 Syndicates, I mean, it's 7 versus 8, so it's apples to oranges, but feels pretty weak, and it's probably still going to feel pretty weak, but it's a minor buff. So, Yordles, this is actually a really big change. The spawn odds are changing. So, the 1-cost spawn odds, whenever at the end of a round, if you have a player combat, you spawn a Yordle on your bench. The chance of spawning a 1-cost going from 60% to 70%, so 10% increase, and then the chance of spawning a 2 or 3-cost is going down by 5% at each level. So you're more likely to hit 1-costs. So this is a nerf to the people who are just playing Yordles as like an econ trait. You play it early, you high roll a Vex or a Heimerdinger, sell it for 3 gold. You're like, lit. Now you're more likely to just hit those Zigs, those Poppies. If you're actually playing Yordles as a comp, so going for like the 6 Yordles chase, which I'll get into this in a second, or you're going for like the Tristana reroll variant that I play a lot, where you just hit your, it's usually Trist, Lulu, and Poppy. You just play those for a while, get a Trist 3-star. This actually could potentially be a buff. It's a buff more to the style where you 3-star your 1-cost, you hit Poppy 3 and Ziggs 3, and then use it as an econ trait again. So maybe there's a chance that this is actually a buff to some variants of playing Yordle. The 6-Yordle variant is definitely getting buffed. The mana reduction is going from 20 to 25%, which makes sense. I think 6 Yordles is pretty weak right now. The Vagar win condition, I think like maybe once I've seen a Vagar in like, after like Diamond Elo, in like Master and above. It's so yeah, I think 6 Yordles is still very weak. This buff probably makes it a little bit more playable. Maybe there is some kind of like Heimerdinger carry comp with the Heimer buffs, which are down below as well. And this 6 Yordle buff, you play like 6 Yordles Heimerdinger and he just casts a million times and carries the whole team. Maybe doable. I don't know. I think it's definitely possible. Definitely something that'd be fun to try. And then also, I think if I'm playing Tristana reroll, I am going to lean more into that style where you hit a Poppy 3, you hit a Ziggs 3, then you get all your Tristanas and then use it for econ, always spawning 3 costs. Because what I used to do, hit a Ziggs 3, and that's like all you really care about. This time, with these changes, it might actually be a buff. Getting a Poppy 3 is good. So yeah, that's it with Yordles. Champions, tier 1. So Caitlyn's ult damage is nerfed at 3-star. Totally reasonable. You 3-star this in the Cog reroll comp. One shot, a ton of units with it. It's kind of insane. But it is another nerf to the Cog reroll, which is why I'm saying it might not be that good this coming patch. Champions tier 2. So Swain's max mana is going down by 5, and Swain's healing per enemy hit is up at every level. It's up 50 at 3-star, which is pretty nuts. So this combined with the Imperial buffs, I think also just make Imperial reroll very solid. I think actually might be a tier 1 comp. We shall see, but it's definitely something to try out. Imperial reroll, hit Swain, Talon, and Samira, put some units around it. It's usually like challengers, sometimes clockworks, but usually like challengers, enchanters, and just pop off with a Samira 3. And yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. Because like Oriana's, you can do stuff with like Camille, Oriana, and then throw in like a Janna there, maybe a Tarek, depending on the socialite X. There's different variations of it, but I think just general rolling for Samiras and these Imperials is a lot better. Okay, this is a change I keep talking about. Heimerdinger's attack range going from 3 to 4. It's actually huge. You know how many fights right now Heimerdinger just has to walk up because of his 3 range and he gets absolutely destroyed. He gets pulled in by a Zac or something, ulted by a Lysandra or something, 4 range. They're increasing his range by 33%. It's actually nuts. So yeah, I think this makes Heimerdinger carry a lot more viable. It's buff to Yordles, buff to Scholars. I think it's a really cool change because I really like Heimerdinger carry. Oh, it's a buff to Innovators as well, obviously. So you can play him in all those comps. You can play a reroll Heimer comp. Might actually be really good. So we'll see with this, but I think it's a really cool change. And definitely needed because Heimerdinger right now is not a very playable carry. Okay, Mazda Heart spell damage. It is being nerfed at 1-star. It's the same at 2-star, and it's being buffed at 3-star. So you're a little less stable with a Mal's 1. Mal's 2 is the same. If you're 3-starring Mal's, he's an even better carry now. So I think that's pretty reasonable. I'm not seeing a lot of 3-star Mal's in my games right now, and I am seeing a lot of people who are like stable with Mal's 1 early. So yeah, if you want to be playing this guy 3-star, I think this also just like adds another carry, basically. It's making this carry better, which is not something that I think a lot of people were playing on the current patch. But so yeah, now you can 3-star the Mal's, 3-star your like Cho'Gath with it, and it's kind of lit. 4 costs. So Seraphine's max mana is going down by 10, and her damage and healing is going up by 25 at level 1, 50 at level 2, and 200 at 3-star, but I mean it's 3-star. There's like compensation buffs for the fact that Morella's is getting nerfed, which you'll see lower, which makes sense. Maybe it makes Seraphine a better carry, an extra 50 damage on every cast and an extra 50 healing is kind of nice. This in combination with the buffs to Innovators, the buff to Heimerdinger, maybe Innovators comes back as a comp with Seraphine carry. So pretty cool, pretty interesting. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially with the nerf to Morellos, which we'll get to. Urgot Purge now counts as a base attack every 2nd shot to every 3rd shot. So the way this works is it'll trigger things like Renan's. Urgot's spell triggers things like Renan's and Static Shiv on every 2nd shot. So you're going to get the Zappy Zappy on every 2nd shot. Now it's every 3rd shot, so it's a nerf if you're like confused about the wording of this. A pretty big nerf, right? From every 2 shots to every 3, that's like a very big difference. So yeah, this combined with the other stuff, they're also nerfing Static Shiv, which was one of his premier items. I think Urgot might be like maybe not bad, but definitely worse. Definitely not like the best comp as a 4-cost carry. So definitely fair. He was really strong. But I don't think you can 20 out of 20 Urgot for free elo. Or maybe you can because it's less contested now. 5 costs. So some big stuff. Galio changes. So his crit strike damage is nerfed at levels 1 and 2. Or at 1-star and 2-star. And his entrance stun duration is buffed at 1-star. So making him a little bit better of a tank, a little bit worse of a damage dealer. I think totally reasonable. Just moving some numbers around, really. I don't think it's that huge of a buff or nerf, really, unless you're playing Clapio, in which case it gets even worse. But Riot really doesn't want you to play Calapio, so sorry. Kaisa, huge nerfs. She loses 50 HP. Her damage per missile is down 10 at 1-star and 2-star, and her starting mana is nerfed, so it goes from 90 to 75. Huge nerfs for Kaisa combined with the socialite nerfs. I think this comp is, I mean, it's definitely not dead. You know, you can, if you hit a 2-star Kaisa, you can definitely cap out your board and like throw. I mean, Morello's is still going to be good on her, even though it's nerfed, as we'll see. It's right here actually, if you want a little preview. It's definitely still good on her. You can definitely still play this comp. It's just not like the best comp in the game, I would say. So that's good. You know, makes it a little bit more reasonable. If you happen to high roll a Kaisa early, you'd probably still play it. If you hit, you know, if you roll down and hit 2 Kaisas and you have a Nico's, I'm making that Kaisa too. I'm playing it, but she's just not the best champion in the game anymore, which very fair. Tahm Kench Devoured damage reduction. So this is while he's eating a unit. He used to have 40% damage reduction. Now he only has 30%. Totally reasonable. I think Tahm Kench is kind of busted right now, especially with the socialite. So with the nerf to socialite and this nerf, I think he's brought much more in line. But like, I mean, he's still probably pretty good. You know, like if you get an early Tahm Kench, you slap that guy down, put some mana items on him, and start farming items. It's pretty crazy how many items you end up getting and gold. And also Tahm Kench at 3-star now gains 20 times the usual stats. So if you get a 3-star Tahm Kench, you feed him a unit, you know, you're getting thousands of HP or, you know, I guess hundreds of AP. Pretty cool if you happen to high roll that. Okay, items. GA Health on Revive, 400, 250. Makes GA... I feel like this is, once again, well, this is interesting. There was a Yoni nerf that it's probably in the minor nerfs. Yoni's getting nerfed, and nerfing his like probably best item in GA. You know, I feel like it just hurts a lot of the units that really like GA. It's fair because GA is like one of the best slams in the game right now, with how Kaisa and Yone and Urgot use them. All of them getting nerfed and GA getting nerfed. It's probably not the super slam every time that it is right now. So yeah, just a little bit worse here. You know, your units only reviving with 250 HP, like that means like a small breeze can knock them over. So definitely something to think about. Probably not slamming this item like every game. And in a similar fashion, Morello's, the true damage burn is going from 2.5% a second to 2% a second. Big nerf, right? It's a 20% damage nerf. Makes a lot of sense. And once again, this is not going to become like the slam at every single game kind of item. It's probably, you know, still a good item. You still like it for the healing reduction. It still does good damage, but you're not just going to be like, if I don't have Morello's, I'm losing this game. So that's cool. RFC, buff the attack speed by 10%, which is great. RFC, no one really builds it right now, so I think this is good. It can be a buff to some of those characters who really like RFC, like Yone. So that's kind of cool. Maybe we'll see Yone without GA and with RFC. That'd be really cool. You know, sort of similar to the like Riven and Yasuo of set 5. Could be interesting. The Sunfire Cape's true damage burn is going down as well, in the same way that the Morello's true damage burn is going down, but the proc rate is going up. So probably about the same. So that's good because this definitely doesn't deserve to be nerfed in the same way that Morello's does. Still a decent healing reduction item, still a decent early slam. And then ZZ Rod is getting buffed at later. So at stage 3, you're getting extra 100 HP, an extra 200 HP, and then an extra 250 HP. I believe this is on the little guy. Yeah, it definitely is. That spawns out of the portal. So this is cool because this is not an item people slam very often. So helping it scale is really cool. So maybe this is a little bit better of a frontline slam if you're in need of frontline. I guess a tiny buff to the Dark Star mutants, right? The ones that care about a unit dying. You'll be even happier about slamming a bunch of ZZ Rots. So that's cool. Okay, so that's all the big changes. Now let's go through the small changes. We'll go through these pretty quick because they're not that consequential. At least, you know, they shouldn't be because they're small changes. So Shrug It Off, getting buffed a little bit. That's good. I thought it was a little bit weak. You know, I think if you have a super huge Cho'Gath, super huge Mundo, super huge Tahm Kench, this will actually be a good pick now. Smoke Bomb now properly reflects the damage reduction applied to the excess damage from the instance of damage that triggers the stealth. Okay, I had no clue this is how this worked. Damage reduction 80 to 100% to 80%. So like if something is hitting the unit, they will reduce the damage when they go into Smoke Bomb. Kind of interesting. I'm still not the biggest fan of Smoke Bomb as like a last augment. If you're playing like a Kali or something, I think it might be good. And maybe I've just played it wrong in the past, and maybe it's like sleeper OP, but I have not had much success with this augment. Sunfire Board and Weak Spot are no longer mutually exclusive. Interesting. I didn't even know that was the case. You still probably don't want to take them together that often, just because this already applies healing reduction, so they are a little bit repetitive. But maybe there's some niche scenarios where you'd want to take them both. I mean, it's usually just if you're like low rolling augments, basically. You usually don't want to take these two together anyway. Metamorphosis is buffed. An extra 1 AD and AP at level 1, and an extra 2 at, at 3 mutants, and then an extra 2 at 5 mutants. So that's kind of cool. I'm down for this. This feels almost unplayable right now. It's good for the tank stats, but, makes the units get, like, actually no effective stats out of it. So maybe it's actually a bit more playable right now. I think it's totally reasonable. Garen attack damage getting buffed. That's cool. A little bit of a compensation buff for the Kog'Maw comp because everything else is getting nerfed, except for Graves as well. Graves is also getting buffed. So there's something to be said about it. So it's a good buff. Maybe Garen will be the item holder in the comp again, especially Cassid's getting changed. So maybe start slamming items on Garen again. We will see. But I think it's very possible that you end up once again slamming like a Warmogs plus a BT plus like a Bramble Vest, a Dragon's Claw, stuff like that. Graves' max mana is getting buffed, but his starting mana is getting nerfed, right? So it's an extra 10 mana for him to actually get to his first cast, but then his second cast is going to be more frequent because he has a max mana of 100. It's good for the Protector comp, which is the only comp you really play Graves in, because, he'll be casting more often, especially if you can slam like a Protector emblem on him, and he'll be casting like a lot. I think this is actually a pretty nice buff. In like almost all scenarios that you're playing Graves, he'll usually be casting, right? How frequently does Graves just get one shot and he doesn't cast? Not that often. Alawi's ability is getting buffed, the damage is getting buffed at all levels, and the healing is getting buffed at all levels, and or it's actually only getting buffed at level 3. The healing's only buffed at level 3. The damage is buffed at all levels. So I don't think there's ever going to be a reason to 3-star an Alawi, unless you're like Bruiser reroll. I don't know. Like, for what reason would you ever 3-star an Alawi? It just doesn't fit, right? You don't want to play these Mercs late game. I guess you could, right? You could 3-star it, have like a strong opener with Mercs, not lose streak. Doesn't really make sense. Maybe in some kind of Bruiser comp this is playable, but I think this is pretty inconsequential. I mean, it is just a nice buff at 1 and 2-star. So that's something. And I think Alawi's already a good unit, so she'll still be a good Bruiser unit, just even better. Okay, so the Null Sphere, Cassidin's Null Sphere damage reduction is going down by 5%, but the duration is up to 5 seconds. I think this is pretty big nerf, right? Like, it lasts a little bit longer, but like, I mean, I don't know the exact like math on how frequently he was casting this. So this, I'm just saying what I feel, but this feels like a nerf to Cassidin. The damage reduction going up 5%. It's a pretty big nerf. I mean, you are getting another second on it, so it's like maybe it's just an adjustment. I'm not actually sure about this one. I have not done the math on it or anything like that. I mean, like, just if you think about it, 30% damage reduction for 4 seconds versus 5 seconds, 25% damage reduction. It's maybe about the same, but I don't know. So I don't really know about this one. It feels to be a nerf to me, but I could totally be wrong on this. And then they're buffing Twisted Fate's wild cards, which is cool. 3-star, it's up an extra 20 damage. 3-star TF, Pog? I don't think so, but just makes him a bit of a more solid early option. This is also like sort of compensation, right? Because they nerf Morello's, which is his best item. So that's fair. Because now Morello's TF isn't like for ELO, and you can't just slam it. So I think he definitely needs this buff. So he's probably about the same strength. Kog'Maw, his ability damage going from 789% to 888%. So makes him weaker at 3-star. Makes the Kog'Maw comp weaker again. Once again, just another nerf for the Kog'Maw comp. I think it's a little bit over nerfed. I feel like it's just not going to be very playable, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Talon's attack speed buff. On the other side, the comp getting all the buffs is Imperials. Talon's already also just like broken as an early unit. Like, if you're just trying to win rounds, put a Talon in, he's going to kill some units. If you hit a Talon too, you can kill so many units. He's not going to like win you every round, but he will kill a lot of units, which is really good. So I would just keep playing this guy as an early game unit, and then also, reroll for him in the Imperials comp. He'll be great. Zillion Time Bomb slow duration, 3 to 4 seconds. That is a really nice buff for Zillion, actually. Like, if you think about it, it's a 33% increasing the time of the time bomb slow, which is like a pretty big slow. So this is great. Great for Innovator comp. Great for Innovator opener. I think this is really good. Makes Zillion an even better unit. I thought he was okay, but now he's like actually pretty nuts. Okay. These mostly they're saying are Morello's compensation buffs. So that makes sense. Echo getting buffed, Lysandre getting her damage buff because Morello's is nerfed. Makes a lot of sense. So they should be about the same power, I imagine. Maybe even a little weaker because this is, it's only a 25 damage buff per cast versus, everything that you're getting from the Morellos. So they might even be a little bit weaker. Smear's health is getting buffed, so another buff for Imperials, right? Right? You see what I'm saying? Especially at 3-star, that's like translate to even more health. I don't know. And then Vex health is also getting buffed, which I think is very fair. I think Arcanist comp right now, like getting a 3-star Vex, she is nothing like she used to be. So I think this is very reasonable. Tier 4, Oriana's max mana is getting buffed. I believe Mort said this was partially like because maybe some people are putting Oriana on their socialite hex. I don't think that happens that often. So this is just like kind of a straight buff to Ori. You don't carry her with Morellos that much, though it's a decent item. So I think overall Oriana's buffed, which is cool. Better for like the Jhin comp. Better for any comp that wants to play with a lot of enchanters and stuff like that. Scion's stun duration. So it's up 1.5 seconds at 1-star. So that's cool. And the damage is up 25 at 1-star. It's really good. Like Scion 1-star is pretty underwhelming, so good to see him get buffed. Yeah, all to say about that really. Yoni's health is getting nerfed. We talked about this earlier. I don't get it. I don't think Yoni's very good. You're also nerfing GA. I mean, you're nerfing a lot of other stuff, so maybe it gets a little better in comparison to like Urgot and stuff like that. But like Jhin was already like at the same level of Urgot. He's receiving no nerfs. His comp is receiving no nerfs. I feel like Jhin has to be the best 4 cost in the game now, right? And Yone getting nerfed, like I feel like this should be a nerf to Jhin right here instead, because I think Yone was already not that good. Him and Urgot were probably similar level, if not him being a little bit weaker than Urgot. But we'll see how the meta shakes up. Your challengers are good into the Jhin comp, right? So they can just slice through everything if you can get through their front line. So something to be said about that. Champions tier 5, Victor's mana's buff because Socialite's nerfed. Very fair. I think this is good. Well, we'll see. He's probably just what he was before. The guy that you cap out your Arcanist comp with, and you're playing less of him as like a dude on a socialite who kills a bunch of stuff. GA is also nerfed, which was an item that he liked, so makes sense. And then items. Chalice is getting buffed by 5%, the AP, and Static Shiv's attack speed is going down. I think Chalice makes sense. I don't see people slam this item very often. I don't think it's very good. So a little buff I think is good. Some people actually speculate that it's really good. I think like GV8 really likes it. I think I was watching like a Robin songs and he was also like these items are pretty good. I might be lying. That might have been GV8 again, honestly. But like these items might actually like Chalice in particular right here might actually be pretty good. And then Static Shiv, the bonus attack speed going down by 10% is also makes a lot of sense. This item was an absolutely insane slam on Urgot. It's probably going to go back to where it was before as like a pretty niche slam. I mean, it's good in AP and AD comps, but because Urgot's getting nerfed, like the interaction with Urgot, and it is getting nerfed, you're probably not going to see it as much in AD. You're really going to see it more in like AP as just the MR shred item. So I don't know. It's probably not getting slammed as much. This is a big nerf, right? And yeah, that's it. There are some random bug fixes, but honestly, none of them are that big as far as I know. I mean, like something like this is kind of crazy, right? Jace was supposed to get nerfed, but he didn't. So they're just kind of reverting that nerf, but it's also never happened, so there's no actual change here, but kind of weird that this even happened, but that's life. Stuff like this, Jinx incorrectly burned enemies for a weird percentage, 2.5% instead of 2. Okay, weird. But nothing big here. You can rate it if you like. And yeah, that's my rundown. So I think this shakes up the meta a ton. My predictions coming out of this rundown is that reroll Imperials with Samir carry seems great. Jhin seems great because he was already really good, and now he's just going to be less. All of his competition got nerfed, and Oriana got buffed. So those are my 2 comps coming out of this, and like Heimerdinger carry, I think. So those are the 3 comps that I would want to try coming out of these patch notes. But we will see. If you guys like this and you want to know more about the patch, you're trying to really study up on it, pretty soon I'm going to do like a ton of research on challenger players, what they're doing in the new patch. And so I'm going to put together a video with my findings from that. I think I'm gonna try to do that at the start of every patch, is just get an idea of like what the item slams are good, what the comps are good, like what the sort of tempo, you know, like this patch is really slow. Other patches, like the one before this, and I'm talking about this current patch, 11.24. But like patches prior to this really fast, like Katarina roll and stuff like that. So I'll try to get that out as well. But yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button, helps me out a lot, and hit the subscribe button. I am, pretty new to the whole TFT YouTube game, but I'm really liking it. And it seems like you guys are liking the videos too. There's a lot of growth going on right now, so I really appreciate it. If you want to be a part of that growth, this is like a psychological thing. Get in on that. Hit the subscribe button. Yeah, and leave a comment down below if you had any feedback on this. This is my first patch rundown ever. So if there's something you liked, something you didn't like, definitely let me know. And also check out my Twitch stream below. I am live there most days of the week for a little while. So yeah, just check me out there, and then in my Twitch, just link to my Twitter and my Discord, blah blah blah. Just follow me on everything. That would be lovely. But yeah, thanks you guys for watching this, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.